at that competition, I said to myself that I will be medaling here to prove myself. And that took a really big toll on my mentality going into the competition, because all I was thinking about was the end result as opposed to the process in which it took to get there. So I wasn't sleeping at night. It was keeping me up at night. I wasn't eating right because it would make me sick to my stomach thinking about not being on the podium at the end of the competition. I was just really sad. And that is not the way I like to approach competing. I like to be happy and enjoying myself and having fun, because ultimately that's what it's about.
And I talk about that I just keep hitting bumps in my slump, that most people's slumps goes down and then they build back up, and I just keep bouncing further down. Because it was just over a month after New York Marathon, my dad died suddenly. Unexpected but not surprising is how I choose to define it. He had addiction issues, mental health issues, diabetes, just in general didn't take care of himself. So that was kind of a big hit. Thought that was my bump, thought it would bounce me back up. And 8 months after being in the hospital, the bottom fell out, and
I thought no one would care. Everybody in my life knew. My friends, my family knew. Everybody in the Michael Landsberg life knew that he suffered from depression, and that in particular, a couple of different years when I was off medication, that it was severe, it was debilitating, it was life-altering and life-threatening. Everybody knew that, but I never spoke about it on TV because people would just go, okay, well, wait a second here. That guy, we think he's arrogant already, and now he's just a complainer. He wants us to like him, so he's going to tell us about this illness.
I had to talk to people, because people have this perception that athletes are superhumans, but that is just not the case. We deal with everyday people problems and mental health just like anybody else would. I think everyone in daily life struggles with mental health in some form or some way. I don't think anyone has ever had a time where they haven't.
10 years ago, if you had asked, like, do you have mental health issues, or do you, have you encountered mental health issues? I'd be like, no, no, like, yes in my head, but no to you. Like, I wouldn't have opened up and spoken about it. But again, if I'm gonna have this platform, people need to see the good, bad, and ugly of it. And if I'm gonna argue for people to treat me as a human before they treat me as an athlete and a runner, I need to actually act like a human and show a human side.
So my depression, I thought was a 10 out of 10. Apparently it was a 9 out of 10 because when I started on the meds, I went to a 10 out of 10. So here I am in a hotel room in Montreal, OTR shooting for the Grey Cup. It's the Marriott Hotel Room 521, 4 a.m. in the morning, and I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, and I go, I understand suicide. I understand why someone would take their life, because here I am, have everything that I wanted in my life. Yet I'm more afraid to have to fight this again for another day, to have to pretend like I'm okay, to have to suffer through conversations where my head is going to explode. I got to get away from these people.
It took me away from doing one of the things I love the most in life, and at the time and to myself, it felt like the end of the world, and it felt like I would never get back out there or I'd never feel the same again.
Then I started to think about how, when I go into the green room to meet the guests, for instance, that I'm hesitating at the door. I started to process this. Why did I avoid that? Why was I lying on the couch when I had an opportunity to do something else? And then it hit me after this reflection that there was something wrong with me. And the lesson that I learned from that most people agree with who suffer, is that depression does not hit you like, oh my God, I'm depressed. It's this tiny, tiny tap that is so light that you can't feel 1 tap or 2 taps or 100 taps or 1,000 taps. But when it taps you 1,000,000 times, all of a sudden it starts to hurt. And you go, where did that come from? So for me, it was these tiny, tiny changes that happened inside me. And they were so small that I couldn't notice them. But then when they added up, when they accumulated, all of a sudden now, I came to the conclusion, I am gone. The person I was, no longer here. The person I am, I don't want to be. And it was at that point that I realized, I needed to get help.